First off, respect the personality of Godhead Narayan Risha, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So it's August 26, 2024. We're here at Gopal House at Gopal Eco Village and Cow Sanctuary at Pine Lake Retreat in Groveland, Florida. It's Sri Krsna Janmastami. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Text 28. Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishna Tu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Medayanti Yuge Yuge Ete Chamsakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vidyanti Yuge Yuge Ete Chamsakala Pumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vidyanti Yuge Yuge Ete Chamsakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vidyanti Yuge
Ete cham sakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge
Ete cham sakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vidyanti Yuge. Would anyone else like to lead the chanting? Ete chamsakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Medayanti Yuge Ete all these Cha and Amsha plenary portions Kala portions of the plenary portions Pumsa of the Supreme Krishna Lord Krishna Tu but Bhagavan the personality of Godhead Swayam in person Indrari the enemies of Indra Vyakulam disturbed Lokam all the planets Vidyanti gives protection Yuge in different ages. Translation. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay, just so everyone can be associating with everyone. We're just getting a view of our Sangha, our association here. Hare Krishna.
Just one idea. If you would like to sit here, we can have a recording where the DT's altar and you also can come.
Sit there? I can do that.
The angle.
This okay?
Yeah.
This works?
Yes.
Okay. Here we are, Gopal Village, Sri Krishna Janmastami, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Now that might block their view in the video. Huh? Let's share it over there. Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Yeah.
In this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars incarnation because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. Avatar means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend on the different planets of the material world as also in different species of life to fulfill particular missions. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes his different plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions or his differentiated portions, directly or indirectly empowered by him, descend on this material world to execute certain specific functions. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fames, all beauties, all knowledge, and all renunciations. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of his different powers are required for those particular functions. When in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to operate large-scale industrial dynamos with greater volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed at that particular time. It's kind of a theme. Yesterday evening here at the inaugural Sunday feast program at Gopal Village, we stressed this time and circumstance. Jesus is an empowered Shaktivesh avatar of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jesus said, I have many things to tell you. You're not able to bear them. And I appreciated your follow-up comment on that, the shloka by Jesus, Mahatma Prabhu. So Srila Prabhupada continues here. For example, Lord Parashuram and Lord Nrsimha displayed unusual opulence by killing the disobedient Kshatriyas 21 times and killing the greatly powerful atheist Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that even the demigods and other planets would tremble simply by the unfavorable raising of his eyebrow. The demigods in the higher level of material existence many, many times excel the most well-to-do human beings in duration of life, beauty, wealth, paraphernalia, and in all other respects. Still, they were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Thus, we can simply imagine how powerful Hiranyakashipu was in this material world. But even Hiranyakashipu was cut into small pieces by the nails of Lord Nrsimha. This means that anyone materially powerful cannot stand the strength of the Lord's nails. Similarly, Jamadagnya displayed the Lord's power to kill all the disobedient kings powerfully situated in their respective states. The Lord's empowered incarnation, Narada, and plenary incarnation, Vara, as well as indirectly empowered Lord Buddha, created faith in the mass of people. The incarnations of Ram and Dhanvantari displayed his fame, and Balaram, Mohini, and Vamana exhibited his beauty. Dattatreya, Matsya, Kumara, and Kapila exhibited his transcendental knowledge. Narayana Rishis exhibited his renunciation. So all the different incarnations of the Lord, indirectly or directly, manifested different features. But Lord Krishna, the primeval Lord, exhibited the complete features of Godhead, and thus it is confirmed that he is the source of all other incarnations. And the most extraordinary feature exhibited by Lord Sri Krishna was his internal energetic manifestation of his pastimes with the cowherd girls. His pastimes with the gopis are all displays of transcendental existence, bliss, and knowledge, although these are manifested apparently as sex love. The specific attraction of his pastimes with the gopis should never be misunderstood. The Bhagavatam relates these transcendental pastimes in the 10th canto. And in order to reach the position to understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, the Bhagavatam promotes the student gradually in 9 other cantos. Srila Prabhupada is recommending systematic reading of the Bhagavatam, of all his books, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, starting from Srimad Bhagavatam, introduction, and 111, first chapter, through the 10th canto, then Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, also it's true that Prabhupada also often says sometimes, wherever we taste the Bhagavatam or any of his books, it's sweet. So that's true. It's all transcendental. It's all transcendental. Bhagavatam, it's like the conclusive instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Saradhaman Pritya Gyamame Kam Sharanam Braja. Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayashami Ma Shucha. Abandon all varieties of yoga and religion and just surrender to me, because that's the goal of all these other paths. That's the goal of all these paths. So it can be said the Bhagavatam starts from that point. The Bhagavatam starts from the point of full surrender to Krishna. Dharma Pojitva Koitavatra Paramo Nimat Saranam Satam. So Koitavatra means like Dharma. It means Bhagavatam is for those who are completely non-envious. So we can say, how come I'm reading Bhagavatam then? So, right. So the idea is like, whatever the state of our heart, we approach Bhagavatam and we get purified. And because in a real sense, we're not qualified to enter Bhagavatam, we can expect there's going to be lots that I'm not going to understand. And to approach that in a spirit of discovery, to approach that, because if we approach it in a proud, envious spirit, then we can find faults with Prabhupada. But if we approach the spirit of like, okay, I know my spiritual intelligence is not pure or developed enough to understand this. And so this is about me. If we approach in humble spirit, it's fully encouraged to read systematically. And at the same time, this points to why, because we've been focusing on Krishna book. Srila Prabhupada, 1969, he published Krishna book in 1970 with the donation of George Harrison. And so Krishna book is the 10th canto, includes the Rasa dance. And because at that time in his verse-to-verse translation, Prabhupada was around the maybe 2nd, 3rd canto. And Prabhupada didn't know how long it would be till he departed. And he wanted to make sure that the world has the 10th canto, has Krishna book. So Prabhupada's cautioning against jumping directly to 10th canto. At the same time, even if someone like gets a book on the street and the first book they read is Krishna book, and they're going to read about chapters 29 to 32, the Rasa dance chapters. So it's like, oh, well, that's a violation of what we're reading here. It's not, because they're reading it guided by the pure devotee. They're reading it guided by Srila Prabhupada. So both are simultaneously true. Wherever we touch, whoever touches any of Prabhupada's books, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna book, it's purifying, fully recommended. And simultaneously, there's a recommendation, especially for those who are aspiring to be followers of Srila Prabhupada to read all of his books systematically. And that's not, because I know myself, some of you know my prasadam pastimes from my early days. I consumed more than 1,000 plates of prasadam before I chanted one round of japa over a period of about 3 years. You could say I actually counted, I made a calculation. Over a period of 3 years at the Krsna Preaching Center in State College, Pennsylvania. This was about 44 years ago. And I remember one time I was taking like my 4th plate of prasad and samosas and garanga potatoes. And I was speaking there at the Preaching Center on East Hamilton Avenue in State College, Pennsylvania. And speaking to Stamba, there were some others there, and because there was like the whole library of Prabhupada books were there, like the whole Bhagavatam, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Prabhupada, so I noticed that, and Stamba was, meeting me where I'm at and encouraging me towards maybe take a step. My only service for 3 years was consuming prasad, and then he was talking about like surrender. So I said, well, before I would like practice anything, I would read all those books. I would read all those books because I knew I would find flaws in the books, and then I wouldn't need to surrender. So Krishna, the Krishna was true. Well, one basic trick is just by reading the books, I am surrendering. By just thinking like I'm going to show how smart I am, and it's just all my false ego. But just by because that is service, like that. But I need to read all those books. And now Prabhupada Krishna has tricked me. So now I'm completely addicted to reading all of Prabhupada's books over and over again. But sometimes I've heard like intimidation. I haven't even finished Bhagavad Gita yet. So kind of like. The way I tend to encourage is kind of like, doesn't mean, when will I finish them all? Just kind of like to make it a habit, like chanting japa is a habit, or maybe for some morning program every day, or at least a few days a week, or, okay, before I eat something, I offer these prasadam prayers. Yeah, there's like a habit, just like make it a habit. Maybe it's a daily habit, or maybe like if I'm not doing any of reading Prabhupada's books, at least 3 times a week, I will pick it up for 10 minutes or 1 page, and just like make it a habit. And it's not about when will I finish, because it's not like when will I, because like I finish my japa. Oh, but tomorrow I have to chant more. I'm just like, this is what I do. This is what I do. This is part of my daily spiritual habit, my commitment to aspire to follow Srila Prabhupada. So I'm going to continue with Prabhupada's purport here. It's Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. According to Srila Jiva Goswami's statement, in accordance with authoritative sources, Lord Krishna is the source of all other incarnations. It is not that Lord Krishna has any source of incarnation. All the symptoms of the supreme truth in full are present in the person of Lord Sri Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord emphatically declares that there is no truth greater than or equal to himself. In this stanza, the word Svayam is particularly mentioned to confirm that Lord Krishna has no other source than himself. Although in other places, the incarnations are described as Bhagavan because of their specific functions, nowhere are they declared to be the Supreme Personality. In this stanza, the word Svayam signifies the supremacy of the Summum Bonum. The Summum Bonum Krishna is one without a second. He himself has expanded himself in various parts, portions, and particles as Svayam Rupa, Svayam Prakash, Tad Ekatma, Prabhava, Vadbhava, Vilas, Avatar, Avesh, and Jivas, all provided with innumerable energies just suitable to the respective persons and personalities. Learned scholars and transcendental subjects have carefully analyzed the Summum Bonum Krishna to have 64 principal attributes. All the expansions or categories of the Lord possess only some percentages of these attributes, but Sri Krishna is the possessor of the attributes cent percent, and his personal expansions, such as Svayam, Prakash, and Tad Ekatma, up to the categories of the avatars, who are all Vishnu Tattva, possess up to 93% of these transcendental attributes. Lord Shiva, who is neither avatar nor Avesh, nor in between them, possesses almost 84% of the attributes. But the jivas, or the individual living beings in different statuses of life, possess up to the limit of 78% of the attributes. In the conditioned state of material existence, the living being possesses these attributes in very minute quantity, varying in terms of the pious life of the living being. The most perfect of living beings is Brahma, the supreme administrator of one universe. He possesses 78% of the attributes in full. All other demigods have the same attributes in less quantity, whereas human beings possess the attributes in very minute quantity. The standard of perfection for a human being is to develop the attributes up to 78% in full. The living being can never possess attributes like Shiva, Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. A living being can become godly by developing the 78% transcendental attributes in fullness. But he can never become a god like Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna. He can become a Brahma in due course. The godly living beings, who are all residents of the planets in the spiritual sky, are eternal associates of God in different spiritual planets called Haridam and Maheshdam. The abode of Lord Krishna above all spiritual planets is called Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, and the perfected living being, by developing 78% of the above attributes in fullness, can enter the planet of Krishna Loka after leaving the present body. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurvanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Upakadamayam Dadati Spapadantikam. Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sta Shri Upam Sagrajatam Saganraganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sta. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpite Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatu Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the Source of All Incarnations, Text 28. Ete Chamsakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Midyanti Yuge Yuge. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheist. The Lord incarnates to protect the theist. This is actually known as the Paribhasa verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Paribhasa means like the emperor verse. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the Paribhasa of the entire Vedas, all the Vedas. So this is arguably the most important verse in all Vedic literature. And it's about Krishna. So the title of the chapter is Krishna, the Source of Incarnations. So the title of the chapter is pointing directly to this shloka. So this chapter describes about 24 incarnations. And Matsya, Kurma, Ramachandra, and Vamana, and Varaha, and Nrsimhadev, about 24 incarnations. Krishna, earlier he's described as an incarnation. So in a sense, Krishna is an incarnation, but okay, yeah. The vital point here, Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the incarnate. He is the being that incarnates. Now, sometimes, but when he appears, even when he appears as Krishna, he might choose to appear through the Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. So that's why it is sometimes, oh, Krishna is the incarnation of Vishnu. So there's a sense in that's true. At the same time, so when it says that this is the most important verse of the Bhagavatam of all the Vedas, it means that all other verses, all other sections of the Vedas need to be understood in reference to this verse, particularly the first two padas. Ete Chamsakla Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swami. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So Krishna is the incarnate. He's not an incarnation. And so he's the incarnate of the Vishnu, the Purusha avatars, the Manvantars, the Yuga avatars, the Leela avatars, the Shaktivation avatars.
Playing from Redmi.
So the Vedas are a Shabda Brahman. Shabda Brahman, this is the most effective way to receive knowledge through authorized source. Okay. So, like, to try to receive knowledge, let's say through our senses, that's another way to receive knowledge, through our senses. That's called pratyaksha. Okay, and we do receive knowledge through our sense of smell and sight, hearing, mostly through hearing, even materially. Even sometimes people say, can you show me God? Well, if God exists, he appears before me, but Prabhupada emphasizes that here, that seeing is overrated. Seeing is overrated. In any subject, we hear the news. We hear from someone we trust about a place they visited. We get most of our knowledge through hearing. And at the same time, there's obviously flaws with that. Let's just say a small child looks at the sun and the child sees pratyaksha. It's a yellow circle in the sky about 3 inches. But we see, no, this child is being deluded by the senses. That we see through the eyes of knowledge. No, it's not a small circle, 3 inches. It's a stellar body, 1.4 million times the volume of the Earth. Okay. And then there's the process of knowing anumana, which is still based on the senses, but through inference. So through we get scientific knowledge. Oh yeah, the sun, through scientific knowledge, through the inferential method that we can see later. But then that's faulty too. It's also based on the senses. The Vedas describe 10 types of epistemology. They're usually subsumed into 3 types. Sense perception, pratyaksha, anumana, or inference, and shabda brahman. Actually, one of the 10 types of epistemology in the Vedas is called sesta, which actually means gestures, non-verbal communication. We talk a lot about that in Sappho, sitting squarely, open body. What messages are my arm sending? What messages are, okay. So that, and the Vedas describe non-verbal communication as a way of receiving knowledge. It's quite scientific. Okay, so Shabda Brahman, that's authorized source. So, like the Bible or the Quran, whatever parts of it have come down authorized, that's Veda. Veda means knowledge. If you want to see, we could even see like an English word like video, to see, to like the Vedic darshans, to see, to realize. Okay, so yesterday at the Sunday feast program, we talked about how we studied and discussed the verse Yidai Dharmasya Glenir Bhavati Bharata Bhutanama Dharmasya Tadatmanam Shujamyam. How and in the verse and purport, Krishna and Prabhupada, they talk about how God comes and meets people where they're at. He meets people where they're at. And so the principles are always consistent and the same, but the details might be different. Even the details can apparently be contradictory. Let's say in mathematics, because Prabhupada gives that mathematics example in a few places, including the purport to 4.7. So even maybe a teacher will begin to teach subtraction. I don't know when they begin subtraction, 3rd grade or something like that. Okay, so it's teaching. Okay, so like 6 minus 4 is 2. You see, you can subtract a smaller number from a larger number. You can never subtract a larger number from a smaller number. Okay? Teacher might say that, according to where they're at. Now later, I don't know when you learn negative numbers, forgetting 4th grade, or at some point you learn negative numbers.
6th grade.
Was that?
6th grade.
6th grade negative numbers? Okay. So then in a 6th grade, so the teacher is teaching, okay, now if you subtract a larger number from a negative number, a larger number from a smaller number, like 6 minus 8, that becomes -2. So then the students or the teacher or the parents, they could say, the 3rd grade teacher lied to my child. You lied. You said that you can never subtract a larger number from a smaller. You lied. Actually, the 3rd grade teacher is just full of compassion, because they want the students, the boys and the girls, to learn subtraction. And if they go into, well, there's something called negative number, that just confuses things. It just, for where they're at, just confuses things. And so they might even say something that's not true. Okay, you get the idea. So God does that. God represents. So sometimes they may even present something, to meet a group where they're at, while encouraging their growth in self-realization, to morality, towards sattvic living, towards super soul connection, like that. And so not just other scriptures, but also the Vedas, all of the Vedas, they're kind of tricking in that way. Yeah, so you'll find Vedas where the goal is to worship Indra and go to heaven and enjoy. It'll say that. Shiva is the supreme, because that'll support people where they're at. And so that's why, but the goal is always to bring people to Krishna, to bhakti yoga, to Krishna consciousness. That's always the goal. But sometimes you need to say you can never subtract the higher number from a lower number, right? Sometimes you need to say that. So Vyasadeva, he gave the Vedas, including Mahabharata. And of course, Mahabharata has Bhagavad Gita, but still Vyasadeva could understand Bhagavad Gita. It's like 18 small chapters buried in this vast epic, which is just part of so many Upanishads and Puranas, like that. So some or all of you know the history. So Vyasadeva, like the greatest literary career in history, and then he's despondent, he's disheartened, because he has compassion for people. So his spiritual master, Narada Muni, comes along, and Narada Muni says, how come you're not satisfied? How come you're depressed? Vyasadeva, this is all described a little later in the 1st canto, chapters 4 to 7. Vyasadeva says, you're an expert empath. You're empathic. You don't even need to ask me. You know what's happening. Narada Muni says, you're right. I know what's happening. You're not satisfied. You're not satisfied. Because okay, thank you, Damayanti. Krishna. And so Narada Muni says, Tadvag Visargo Jantaga Viplavo Yasmin Patishloka Yabadava Yapi Namanyananta She Yashon Kitanya Shindanti Antiquinanti Sarva. He says there's literature for swans and there's literature that bias on Tirtan, literature for crow. And you've given literature for crows. Yeah, it's not like Vyasadeva was writing cheap Harlequin romance novels. I mean, he's giving the Upanishads for God's sake, but Narada is like garbage. Yeah, it's all this tricky stuff to bring people to the goal, but people aren't going to get the goal because, especially in Kali Yuga, they're so covered in incense, Yamanda Sumanda Mati Yamanda Bhagavad Bhajita, like that. So I said that's why you're depressed, because you really want to help these people. So, and that verse, by the way, Tadvad Visarga Janataga Diplabo, we can understand that. One way to understand that is predicting Srila Prabhupada. The word Viplavo translates as revolution. Narada Muni talks about how, Bhagavatam, this literature, this creates a revolution in the consciousness of the impious lives of this age. So Narada Muni is saying the Bhagavatam is going to create a revolution in consciousness. Now, if we look over the history, the millennia, the centuries, we know Bhagavatam has always been appreciated in some villages in South India, but we can't really say anywhere in history where the Bhagavatam created a revolution of consciousness until Srila Prabhupada came on the Jaladutta with those 3 volumes of Bhagavatam and gave it. And now Bhagavatam's creating, it's like here we are in New Zealand, here we are in Florida, studying about Narada Muni. This is revolutionary. This is inconceivably revolutionary. And Narada Muni, so we can see Narada Muni predicted Srila Prabhupada. So
I agree.
yeah.
Nice. It's a nice realization, in a sense.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva, hearing from Narada Muni, he goes to Samyaprash, there at his cottage on the river, on the banks of the Sarasvati with the berry trees all around. And he goes into a trance of bhakti. He goes into a bhakti meditation, bhakti yogina manasi, samyak pranihite male, apashyat pusham purna, mayam chayad, apashrayat, ahetukam. He went into a trance of bhakti and he got full realization of the absolute truth. And he saw Viranti Tattvavidas Tattvamyatkan Madvayanam Ameti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shavyate. He saw all 3 major aspects of the absolute in their interrelationships, the Brahmagyoti, the Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And he saw that Lord Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, is the most complete realization of the absolute truth. So this is Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas, the compiler of Shabda Brahman, that Lord Sri Krishna, this is the goal of all the other paths. He got, and as a result, and he saw that without knowledge of Krishna and Bhakti Yoga, everyone in Kali Yuga is suffering. Yaya samohito jivo atmakam shri gunatmakam paropi manute paropi manute pyarta tatkritam chapipadyate. And he saw they're suffering because they're misidentifying their spirit soul, their spiritual self with dead matter, and they're in agony. And so as a result, anatopashamam sakshat bhakti yogam hokshaje lokasya janata vidvams chakri samvata samhita. So as a result, he saw that the solution to clear all these anarthas, yes, Bhakti Yoga Madhokshaje is Bhakti Yoga to Sri Krishna. Anarto Pasharam Sukshala. And then he was inspired, Chakra Sattva Samhita. He was inspired to reveal. It's not really appropriate to write in the conventional sense. Srila Vyasadeva revealed the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Bhagavatam's always existing. Srila Vyasadeva revealed it. So the Bhagavatam is the summum bonum of epistemology, right? So like the best way to know is not through the senses, but it's through hearing from Shabda Brahman. So you got the Vedas. Fine, good. But most of the Vedas are doing tricky stuff. Like even the Buddha's tricks were so deviant from the goal, but he needed to do it. It was his goal. It was his service that he was rejected from Vedic society. But even most of the Vedas, it's Karma Yoga, it's Jnana Yoga, merged in Brahma Jyoti. And so the Bhagavatam was revealed because Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas, he's the ultimate authority. He was sick and tired of all other stuff. He agreed, this is all this is like garbage for clothes. So the Bhagavatam is the highest way to know. It's the best epistemology. And this chapter, so the supreme, the most complete element of the absolute truth is not Paramatma, it's not Brahma Jyoti, it's Bhagavan. It's Bhagavan, Bhagavan iti Shabdite. Okay, then who is Bhagavan? And this verse, and this is Bhagavan, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Svayam. Krishna is the original Bhagavan. Right, so all of the other verses in the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Upanishads, Vyasadeva intends them to be understood in relation to this emperor verse, in relation to this verse. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Svayam. And so that's why I'm considering it especially appropriate to be, in addition to our Krishna book pastimes, 10th canto, to be reading this verse, spoken, revealed by Vyasadeva, spoken by Srila Sutta Goswami to Shaunaka Rishi and the sages at Nami Sharanya. So the verse again, Ete Chamsaka Pumsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam, Indrari Vyakalam Lokam, Vidyanti Yuge Yuge. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theist. So yeah, whatever Vedanta societies, yoga clubs, this and that, any reference to the Vedas, for the most part, it's safe to say there's ignorance about the actual goal of the Vedas. And of course, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vedescha Saver Hame Vedu Vedavid Evajaham. I'm the compiler of the Vedas, and his literary incarnation is Vyasadeva. I'm the goal of the Vedas. Yes. And so I'll pause there if anyone wants to share any realizations, ask any questions, share any comments at this point. Anubhavananda.
I just wanted to say, just recently I read a comment from Prabhupada that I think is the most powerful revelation. And it's just some short words, but he said, actually, if someone is envious, one who is not envious, Prabhupada said, one who has no envy is in the spiritual world.
That's the spiritual world.
If we have no envy in the spiritual world, that also goes along with where Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there cannot be any happiness without peace. And the only way this knowledge can be attained, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, try to find out the truth by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service to him. You know the verse. So this is the only way knowledge is attained. We can't attain it by challenge. There's no way, because this knowledge is perfect. It's perfect. There's nothing. It's because there's perfect knowledge. You can't challenge it. But the only way that we can actually receive it properly it's from the pure source of someone who actually realizes the knowledge, and that's Prabhupada for us. Then the spiritual master, we have to hear from the right source. We hear from the wrong source. It can be like drinking poison. It'd be like the disciple drinking poison if you hear from the wrong source.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
I'm not even talking somewhere other. I'm just Chris. I'm having another realization that's simply by being innocent with devotees.
Yes.
We get realization that simply by the presence of devotees. It's perfection, really. I think there's a verse about that discussions in the society of devotees. You maybe know that verse. That's the perfect place to get spiritual realizations. There's no better place than in the society of devotees, where it's being discussed, and it's just because I'm here with devotees that is it's invoking and causing me to even speak the way I'm speaking. It's just because of your association.
It all emerges in the association of devotees.
Yeah.
One verse I'm reminded of in hearing your sharing on the Bhavananda is the second of the seed verses of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about devotee association. Matsita matgata pranam bodhyantas param katyantas chamam nicham tushanti charamonti cha. It says, my devotees derive great bliss and enlightenment by enlightening each other about me, associating with each other.
I was going to mention that verse. Yeah, that's it. And Prabhupada said, actually, we need to be in a society of devotees. Actually, our spiritual life is completely dependent on living with devotees and engaging in devotional service in the association of devotees. And he said, if you love me, you cooperate together. Because really, that's the only way we're going to really properly understand his philosophy, is by cooperating for Prabhupada together. That's the only way we can really grasp these very difficult. It's only possible by this spirit, by following Prabhupada's instructions. The most important one I really see is that if you love me, you cooperate together for me. If you love me, you cooperate together for me. This is love. This is love. This is one of the definitions of love. Cooperating together for the pure devotee who has love for Krishna.
Not easy thing to do.
Yeah.
That's why Janmastami was so loved by the devotees, because he was able to perceive the situation of each devotee individually. He took care of everybody very, very nicely.
Yeah,
Not easy for us to do.
Janmastami actually made me feel important. Once I was following him, and it was one of the most rare times of my life, just following with other devotees. He was going to the spot where the Rath Yatra cart was, and I was feeling like I was in Vrindavan, just following him. And when we got to the spot, though, he was on a ladder of a chariot, and he asked me, "What's your name?" And the way he asked, it made me feel like I was important. I had some significance because he wanted to know. And that's the way I think he felt about all devotees. He saw devotees as someone important persons to know himself. He made devotees all feel like they were really something in his presence. He had that ability.
So how can we say that Narada Muni predicted Srila Prabhupada in a few words?
How can we say predicted Srila Prabhupada?
Did Narada Muni predict Srila Prabhupada?
Well, this is just my conjecture. I'm not, saying I have necessarily absolute truth.
I understood it when I heard it, but now
I understand what. Okay, go.
Well, I'm referring to that verse in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto. And there, the first line of the verse is Tadbhag Visargo Janataga Viplavo. Viplavo translates as revolution. Narada Muni says that this Bhagavatam that you're going to reveal, Srila Vyasadeva, this will create a revolution in the impious lives of the very fallen population of Kali Yuga. So what I said is, we look at history, We see, of course, the Bhagavatam was appreciated by Vaishnavas. But the Bhagavatam did not create a planetary revolution until Prabhupada sailed on the Jaladuta with those 3 volumes. And now, of course, we have 30 volumes. So we can see, the way I'm seeing it is Narada Muni is predicting the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada revealing Bhagavatam in Western languages and creating a revolution on the planet.
I exactly see that way too. I think you're right on myself. I completely understand what you're saying. You said this will create a revolution, and
Yeah.
who created the revolution? Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, yeah.
Prabhupada created the revolution.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Bhagavata Purana
These,
describing what can be interpreted as the prediction of Srila Prabhupada?
which Purana?
Bhagavata,
I've heard of that, yeah.
Bhagavad Mahatmya.
I've seen these names.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen the
think
names.
that, I always mention these things because I'm not scholarly inclined. For years, I've been mentioning this to devotees that are more studious, so they may find out, but I understand that one of these describes that it is, of course, on top of the Chaitanya Mangala, Senapati Bhakta,
Yeah.
right? But one of these describes that devotion
Flame from
personified
Redmi.
will reside in Vrindavan, and after that will leave India to distribute Krishna consciousness all over the world. The other one I forget, but this is Bhagavad Mahatmya, and the other one is Bhagavata Purana. In
Different
case you
predictions.
devotees, can research it, because that's a very, very important part, I think, of the true bona fide spiritual master. They're predicted.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks for that.
I got another one, but I forget now.
Getting a bit late for the memory.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you shared on about, and it reminded me of parts of my exchange between Mahatma and myself yesterday, because you kind of asked, well, how come we're not fully giving ourselves to the process? And what came to me is because I don't want Krishna to be the center. I want David Wolf to be the center. So that gets to the essence of envy. And I appreciate your reference, Prabhu, that this we're free from envy. Prabhupada's record, we're free from envy. We're in the spiritual world, and as long as I'm with envy, really, I'm blocking myself from any possibility of happiness or joy. And envy means I'm just clogging my whole system with all this junk.
So we would feel envy because we're not in the spiritual world, we're doing devotional service 100%, 100% of the time.
Krishna in the center.
So if we're feeling any envy, it's because we're not properly situated in devotional service.
Yeah.
Another point is, my understanding is what I read many years ago is that it is a very difficult thing to understand how we fell from the spiritual world. I heard a prophet describe that actually the very fragmental second we became envious. Just listen to the very moment we became envious, immediately we were thrown here, and we fell because we're not God. That's my understanding. Because we're not God, we're always limited, whether we're liberated or unliberated. Still our position is always limited before Krishna. Therefore, we had the ability to make a mistake, but it's basically completely not there. In perfection, there's no tendency to make a mistake, but still, because we're jivas, we can't make a mistake because we're limited.
I wanted to, perhaps the younger devotees don't know, I don't know, I'm sure you know, I know he knows, how it came about, the financing of the Krishna book in 1970.
Okay, you wanna tell that
Well-
from Shamasundar?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Why don't you
story.
tell me, guys?
Are you familiar with it?
Are you familiar with that?
Jason donated
Huh?
thousands of dollars from Apple's it came.
They got, but the mechanics of how it happened, it's kind of funny. Prabhupada asked Sundar, go to George Harrison and ask him for $19,000. Oh my God, it's at that time, 1970, $19,000, we're talking about 150,000 now.
Right, yeah,
Right.
about that, yeah.
It's a lot of money. So Sundar apprehensive. But it was the order of Prabhupada, so he went. He was hanging out with George, and he just couldn't get himself to say it. Finally, he said, George Prabhupada wants $90,000 to. Prabhupada wants $90,000 to print Krishna books. And there was like total silence for a minute. George was like motionless and thinking. And all of a sudden, there's this thunder on the top of the
And
house.
Thunderbolt.
And he shook the house like this, and the lights went out. And then after some time, they came up again. I said, I guess that's a sign I'm supposed to give it.
Yeah, see, Shamasundar, he wrote that in the chasing runners with the Swami, it's in there. My impression from the way Shamasundar described it is that he was very fearful, because he was like carefully cultivating, he was very fearful, and when he asked, Shamasundar's impression of the nonverbal silence was George was reacting in just the way Shamasundar feared.
Right.
Like, oh, you just like, oh. And then there was the lightning bolt, and George was like, okay, I get it, yeah.
Actually, another understanding I got is, when Prabhupada said that, to Shamasundar, even Shamasundar in front of Prabhupada was, he paused,
Yeah.
he was doubting that was even a good idea, even when he heard it from Prabhupada, he was. Cause like you said, he was really sensitive, and he didn't want to.
Didn't want to
disturb
relationship.
the relationship they had with and when George Harrison first met, George Harrison was really a Christian consciousness, really. That's a symptom of a Christian consciousness, is when we understand that Christians are controlling everything, and if this happened, if the thunderbolt happened, he's thinking Krishna caused this, he wants me to do it, I mean, that's understanding of a Krishna, that there's no accident that a blade of grass moves, without the sanction of Krishna.
Yeah.
It's a Krishna, but I wanted to say that when George Harrison first met Shamasundar, he says, "Where have you been? I've been looking for you." As soon as Shamasundar walked in, that's what George says. "Where have you been? I've been looking for you." It's just very interesting. It's an interesting pastime.
Definitely, yes. Any comments or sharing from online, Bhakti Devan or Atmananda Prabhu? Thanks for being with us here on Sri Krishna Janmastami at Gopal Eco Village. Hare Krishna.
You're very welcome, and thank you. I just caught the end of the class, and I appreciated your pointing out that idea that with the word viplavo, that Narada Muni was ridiculous with Prabhupada. Thank you. I'll use that tomorrow, because I'm emceeing a program here for Vyasa Puja. I'll bring that up.
Wonderful. You'll be hosting a Vyasa Puja program at your home there.
No, we've rented a hall.
You rented a hall. Thank you, Atmananda. Hello, Bhakti Devan. Thanks for your participation and association here.
Yeah, it's good to be with you guys. Good to see you, Atmananda, and good luck tomorrow. It sounds really fun. And today I read over some of the Vyasa Puja document that Ramprad Das created.
Yes.
Some reading, some skimming. I just kind of wanted to see who all contributed, and there's 27 pages in total, and maybe 8 different contributions and from individuals, and from poems to, anyway, inspiring stuff. And dear Govinda writing about his points and latest writings, and Srila Prabhupada's full availability. So I was enjoying that. And yeah, I wasn't fasting today, but I stayed home with family, and I made some offerings to Krishna here in our home temple. And I'm not intentionally staying up till midnight either, but I'm still here with you and glad to
You
be.
are,
And
you-
yes.
Thank you, Dr. Devin.
It's spontaneous, huh?
What's that?
It's a spontaneous.
Yeah, spontaneous, yes, spontaneous, yes. All right, well, here, it's about 11 PM. And Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Good job.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Good
jai,
job.
Shri Krishna Janmastami ki
Good
jai,
job.
Lord Shri Krishna ki jai.
Good job.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Nam.
Namaste, Saraswati,
So, what do you suggest?
Where are they at, Prabhu?
Okay, Atmananda Prabhu is in New Zealand
Oh,
and Bhakti Devin is in Alachua, Florida.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
And if you go over, you said we're going to Kirtan now for like an hour and then sort of the feast. Okay. Hari Gopal Prabhu, would you like to start us off leading Kirtan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Namo Vishnuvaraya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani
Krishna